right now? I'm not really getting an answer, but again, this is something that a lot of folks are going to want to see. Let's pull in our former spokesperson for the president himself. Peter Roussel is joining us here on the set to talk about all of the events that we have been watching and all of this so carefully choreographed. Also, just in a very emotional day that we're making our way through here. And I imagine that for you personally, an emotional day as well.
Lona, I've got both a tear and a smile in my heart. Because 50 years professional association and 50 years of personal friendship. 50 years off and on, I might add, a professional association. So, yeah, I'm proud to say I'm emotional about it. You know, though, let me just add one thing. President Bush, if you're here right now, I think he'd say to me, hey, Pete, this is all great and prop and circumstance is great, but try and keep it a little light, too, because nobody liked a joke better than President Bush, and he had one of the greatest senses of humor of any human being I've ever been around.
Yeah, so, you make a great point.
He even played a joke on me when he was vice president on what wasn't this plane, but he invited me to come up one time after I'd left the White House to Kennebunkport, and I was late getting out to the airport, so I called ahead and said, tell the vice president to go on and I'll catch a commercial flight. Well, by the time I got out to Andrews, the plane was still there, which amazed me. So I ran up the steps and I got on the plane, and he and all the agents, everybody had their head down like they were asleep. And he finally goes, oh, he kind of yawned and said, oh, you made it, didn't you? But that was his kind of sense of humor.
Yep.
And when you also, we've seen that sense of humor on display several times.
Yes.
From the crazy socks he used to wear at a lot of the sporting events, some of the great stories we've seen, how he would frequent some of the restaurants here around town. Are you surprised at all about the outpouring of support here in the Houston area? I mean, we've seen people lining up so they can see him lying in repose. They got to get shuttled over. It's not an easy day for them. We saw the flyover from College Station happen already. People just getting outside their vehicles, standing on top of their roofs, getting video of that. All these different moments playing out today.
Eric, I'm not surprised at all. Houston was his family. The Bush's family was Houston. Where did they come to after he left the presidency? Houston, Texas. And he'd had all these previous years here. So I think the people in Houston feel an attachment to that family, and it has nothing to do with partisan politics. It transcends partisan politics. I think it's just respect for a man who gave much of his life to public service and was so proud of this city. And as we all know, once they came back here from Washington, they were engaged in this city in many, many ways. So I think we have to, it just makes my esteem for him even greater.
It was great how they're always out and about as well, because you know, you'd see him at the sports games. He was an athlete in college as well. He loved sports, but they were always on display, just kind of sharing their genuine interest about the city.
Shoot, Barbara Bush even rode home with me from one of those events in my '66 Mustang with no air conditioning. But that was the Bushes. Totally down to heart. You know how I've described them over the years? The simplest way I know to describe them, for me, sums it up. They were non-big shot big shots. Were they big shots? Yes. Did they ever act like it? Heck, no. So anybody that's known them would confirm that. The humility factor there was tremendous.
Yep, and everybody's been talking about that all day today, that kindness and the humility that we saw. As we take a look at the plane, getting closer to Ellington Field, we want to check in with ABC 13 reporter Charlie Edsity, who's there on the tarmac waiting for that plane to land. And Charlie, as the folks have gathered there outside waiting, are you able to see the plane visually at this point?
Yes, Alona, I think we have spotted Special Air Mission 41. It is quite spectacular. We can see it. It's so massive, and it looks like it's flying kind of low and slow off in the distance, kind of north of Ellington Field here. And so I just want to step out of the way so you guys can see what things look like as we wait. And so right now, as I said earlier, the expected arrival time is supposed to be around 5:05, which is 30 minutes later than when it was initially supposed to arrive here at Ellington Field. And so you mentioned the guests, about 300 of them that were invited invited to come here for this special arrival ceremony. Those folks have shown up. They're all standing in place now, just a couple feet to my left. And just looking over at them, you can tell that there's a lot of anticipation and just a lot of, I guess, just awe of being able to be here and witness this, once in a lifetime ceremony happen right in front of them, just a few feet away. And so I'm going to run down the list of the folks that we were told are in attendance here. Players, owners, and management from the Houston Texans, the Astros, the Rockets. We've got guests here from Methodist Hospital, MD Anderson Cancer Center, George Bush High School, Houston Christian High School, and also some Metro board members. And so we've been referring to this aircraft as Special Air Mission 41, and that's because the name Air Force One is typically designated for the aircraft whenever the sitting president is on board. And so, of course, President Trump lending this aircraft for all of the ceremonies being held across the country for President Bush. And so it has been designated Special Air Mission 41 for that purpose. And so what we've been told is that there's a little bit of slight winds out here. It's a little bit chilly, but it is a beautiful, clear day. So we're told that those winds are not going to impact the landing of this aircraft, and that it, last check, is supposed to land from the south and then will park facing north. And so once that happens, we're told that there is a blue box truck that has been sitting out here on the tarmac all afternoon. That blue box truck is then going to approach the aircraft, park right next to it, and it's actually going to raise up and pull the casket out from the aircraft. And at that point, we'll have pallbearers come in. They will remove the casket from that truck, and then it will be loaded into the hearse. And so, of course, as that's happening, family will come off of the plane. They'll be loaded up into buses and vehicles that will then motorcade into Houston. And so I'm looking off into the distance here. It looks as if we do have a visual here of Special Air Mission 41. It looks like it's getting pretty close to approaching here. And so may look like it's going to arrive here just a few minutes ahead of schedule. And so I just want to give you all a heads up that once the aircraft lands, that's when we are no longer permitted to speak. They've asked that we obviously show our respect here, and as soon as the aircraft lands, we are told that we are not permitted to continue speaking. So if I do go silent, I will, that's the reason why. And so it's getting a lot quieter now. There's a hush kind of going. There's a hush coming over the crowd right now, and so we are watching a pretty spectacular moment happen right now. And so, Art and Melanie, I'm going to toss it back inside to you.
All right, Charlie, and are you able to see that 300 plus invitees? Are they there on the tarmac already?
Oh yeah, they're right here. They've all got their phones out. I think everybody is just really excited to witness what's happening right now. And so I think at this point we're gonna toss it back inside to you guys. Yeah, we're gonna quiet up now.
Very good. No
like
doubt. Yeah, you have
down.
to do that. It's just about ready to touch down now. Again, this is the beautiful picture we have of Air Force One, but of course known as Special Air Mission 41. Mr. Trump loaning that aircraft to Mr. Bush on this special occasion, not only to fly back here, of course, but to spend his final days right there in Washington, D.C., leaving here on Monday.
Yeah, the very last trip he will ever take on this esteemed vehicle here on this plane. You can see it is just about to touch down, and as Charlie was telling us, there are 300 guests, many of them members of our various sports teams. There we go as it lands, but also nurses from different hospitals that were associated with the Bushes over the years, as well as other neighbors and friends.
Yeah, in fact, his original Secret Service detail team as well, they flew with him, and they were with him even on the procession on Monday when he left the funeral home, arrived at Ellington Field, and then then he left Ellington Field, of course, went to Washington, D.C., a 36-hour line in state right there in the capital, the nation's capital, and the rotunda. And what a beautiful service that was. Peter Russell, of course, is with us as well. And Peter, you've been on this aircraft many times.
And right now, the entire family is there, as I understand it.
Yep. And coming in to greet his extended Houston family again.
Peter, just
people of
quickly
Houston.
here, I'm sorry, we have to introduce ourselves as welcome to Live at 5. It's 5 o'clock right now, and welcome to Live at 5. You are watching Live at 5 News, and we have continuing coverage now of George H.W. Bush and the arrival of the aircraft. Go ahead, Peter. You were talking about your
about 5 minutes
experiences.
early, we might mention.
Well, you got to like that, don't you?
Yeah.
And he would like that. One thing about George H.W. Bush was he was very punctual.
Yes.
And if you were a minute late, if you were 30 seconds late, it was kind of the train's leaving the station without you.
On to the next event, as he would always say.
You got that.
Yeah.
No, and I learned from many years of being around him, I learned to be punctual because that was the effect he had on me and on so many people that were in his orbit at various times. But he taught me how to be punctual. That's a good trait to have in life.
He also taught you about the importance of treating everyone the same, did he not, Peter?
Absolutely.
And the fact that you got
Absolutely.
this list of invitees that really cuts across all boundaries in life. That was very much George H.W. Bush.
It was always take care of be kind to people. He'd say his mother had said that to him when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And he's tried to carry that through his entire life. And I can remember going to Astros games here where everybody's trying to get his autograph, and he'd finally pick out some little 5, 6-year-old way off to the side and call them over. And I thought, that is so decent. That is so human.
You shared so many of those stories a couple of days ago on Monday when we were watching that procession.
I promise not to repeat any of them here.
But there's so many as well.
There
But you know
are.
what has been incredible over these past few days since his death is that the memories, the tributes have all been of his legacy, not in really serving as a president, in his political, strategy and the way he moved things, which was incredible in and of itself. But more so, this man was a man of great faith. He was a man of great honor. He was a man of great peace. And he was someone who was just simply always trying to help others, in it for the service.
Let me add the word humanity to that.
Yes.
I've never known anybody that genuinely cared about more people than he did. And as I've said over and over, a lot of it had nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
It was just he used to, I heard it from him many, many times. Pete, when you got some kind of challenge and wavering on making a decision, do the right thing.
Yeah, do the right
That's
thing.
real simple, but very excellent advice for, I think, anyone.
Certainly is.
And a perfect day for the plane to land here at Ellington. As you can see, it is taxiing to a stop here. We haven't yet had a chance to see all of the people that we are expecting to greet him. But this is a real opportunity for many Houstonians, as well as those folks up in College Station just a short while ago, to get a chance to see Air Force One, even though, as we say, we're calling it now Special Mission 41. But very rare that we get a chance to see this. And even that, Peter, as I understand it, was laid out. He wanted to make sure that people in his hometown got a chance to see up close and personal kind of the majesty of the White House, as we see all of these people now standing and waiting for him.
If I might just mention something about an airport tarmac, and again about his caring for others and not himself. In 1969, January of 1969, President Lyndon Johnson was leaving office in Washington. George H.W. Bush, who was then a congressman, he was having a reception in his office. He left that reception to go out to Andrews Air Force Base to say goodbye to President Johnson, even though he was a Republican and Johnson was a Democrat. He stood by himself out behind a rope line, and President Johnson was walking across the tarmac to the plane and saw him and walked all the way back over and greeted him and told him how much that meant to him, that he was out there that day when a lot of members of his own party weren't out there. And years later, I asked President Johnson about that, and he said, not only have I never forgotten that, I never will. And to me, that spoke volumes about George Bush.
It does.
And how many people would think to do that?
Well, fellow Texans, despite the fact that they weren't in the
Bush said
same
at the
party.
time, he said, why wouldn't I do it? He was a fellow Texan. And also, Johnson had served in the Senate with President Bush's father. So he just felt, as I remember he said, it was the right thing to do.
Well, as you say, it speaks to the humanity of the man. Always meek, always humble. He understood his role, and as president, he may go down in history as one of the greatest single-term presidents because of everything he accomplished, especially when it comes to the European, the Cold War, and ADA, and so many other things which he was involved in during that time. Now, there is Air Force One. What a beautiful jet that is, known as Special Mission 41. Let me go through the process quickly about what's going to be happening as hundreds of people look at this jet landing, and then as well the body being removed. Now, once the box truck approaches that jet, it will take the casket, it will bring it to the ground, and then you will go through a series of ceremonial tributes to this man, which is just, they're going to be beautifully played out. And while that's happening, we're going to pause and just sort of watch it happen, because they will be doing flourishes and
hail to
the chief,
yeah.
of course. Flourishes and ruffles, my apologies, what?
Ruffle flourishes.
Ruffle flourishes.
Or actually, the full title is Ruffles and Flourishes.
Ruffles
Yeah.
and Flourishes. That's a singular song out of itself.
And there
as-
you see the van right now pulling up to the plane. And shortly, in just a few moments, we're going to see the casket unloaded and placed into that van there. You can also see, and right now they're standing absolutely silent at attention there, but you can see members of the military band there. They will be greeting the president in just a few moments and his family.
Yeah.
And we saw there behind the rope there on the tarmac, so many of those visitors who are privileged to get this one last look at the man that meant so much to so many of them. And as we say, they really cut across all walks of life there. People that, even some of the nurses that attended to him in the last year or so, people who are part of his church, sports members, just all kinds of people that the Bushes considered to be friends and family. And Peter, as you know better than anybody else, their idea of family was very broad. People across not only the city and Washington, around the world, people that they considered to be close friends. I know this is a very emotional day for you.
As I've said before, I'm viewing it all with a tear and a smile in my heart, because I think that's what he would want this to be, a combination
Absolutely.
of those things. And yes, I do consider myself a part of that family. And as I told Art here the other day, my mother wrote him a letter once and said, Peter thinks he's a Bush, not a Roussel. I said, okay.
You know,
Your
one of
poor
the
mother, but you know what? He would be celebrating all
Yeah,
of that as well, and he would be the one to be telling us, "Don't give this so much pomp and circumstance. You know what? Let's just make this. Let's just humanize."
In fact,
this.
if he was here, Art, if he was here, he'd come off that plane and say, now, aren't we inconveniencing all these people out here? Why are they all out here? Let me go say hello to all of them.
One of the most remarkable stories I heard as the door opens there, and we're going to begin to see now many members of the family come down those stairs. But one of the most remarkable things I remember reading was the fact that he was afraid no one would come for his funeral. No one would turn out for, anything like this. And I can't even imagine what he would think as he saw these, tens of thousands of people standing in line all night long in Washington. Now we will see, crowds here in Houston and in College Station. What he would think about that, Peter?
I think he'd be amazed and very appreciative. But knowing him and his humility, he'd probably be thinking too, gosh, I'm inconveniencing a lot of these people. They could be doing something else right now.
I could easily hear him saying, I don't deserve all this attention.
Exactly. Art,
because
exactly.
He had such a humble heart and humble way about him.
It was about you, not him.
Right. It was about everyone else and not him.
Yep.
I mean, how times have changed.
If he had a candy bar, he'd say, here, have half.
Yeah, yes.
You're right.
That's what
You're
it was
right.
all about.
All right, the box truck is right there next to the aircraft, and then they will be loading the casket. Once the casket drops to the ground, they will be unloading it on or off the box truck, and then that is when the flourishes, ruffles and flourishes will play.
And hail to
That
the
is, by the way, just that's only a few measures long, that song. It kind of blends right into Hail to the Chief.
Yes.
And we've heard that already 3 times. During this whole process of the past few days. This will be the last time, I think, that it is played, unless it's going to be played possibly in College Station, but that may not happen there. But it was played as well on his departure on Monday, and that band will be playing that song, which is just beautiful, and a 21-gun salute, simultaneous 21-gun salute.
Yeah, and right now we're seeing that boxcar level itself off there at the door of the plane. In just a moment, his casket will be rolled into that. The Special Honor Guard, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, are among those positioned there on the tarmac, and the family at some point will come down. In fact, it looks as though that may be happening now. Kind of hard to tell who's there at the front. Peter, you may have a better sense. Are these some of the Secret
With
Service
my
men.
aging eyes.
With your aging
well,
eyes.
there'll certainly be the agents, certainly,
Yes.
and sometimes it's just military personnel that have responsibilities with regard to the plane.
And here they come now. I don't know if it's possible to hear anything at this point, or if it is as silent as it appears to be.
They will begin the music once the casket is being walked and the pallbearers are carrying that casket. You'll have, once again, all arms of the military represented. You have the Coast Guard, you have the Navy, you have the Marines. Of course, him
the Air
flying for the
Force,
Navy.
yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Bush was a Navy pilot at a very young age. He joined when he was 17 years old.
At the time, he was the youngest
He was
in the Naval Air
youngest-
Service. Yeah.
Youngest person in the
17 years
Navy
old.
Air Service. Just incredible.
Whoever's president, just you're mentioning the 5 branches there, they always have one from each branch that serve as a military aide to the president.
Well, and the reminder today from the former Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney, he talked about the fact that, you know, what were most of us doing when we were 20? He said, I was working here, there were other people who were in college kind of hanging out. President Bush was flying a plane and getting shot down.
They
at
don't
that
call them the
point.
greatest generation for nothing.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And here they are preparing the casket, and there you see the flag-draped casket beginning to roll out of that jet. And we will see this be placed inside the boxcar, and then the boxcar will drop and lower itself, and then they will slowly carry the casket along with music, hail to the chief, 21-gun salute, and a beautifully choreographed display of respect and of honor and of tribute for a fallen president.
Well, and so interesting today. We haven't talked a whole lot about the service this morning, which was just breathtaking, Peter.
Yes, it was.
It really was. But one of the things that you had to remember as you look there at all of these former presidents, certainly the Bush family, which includes 2 governors in addition to former president, and yet and still you're reminded that this was a family, that they were mourning the loss of another parent just 8 months after their mother died. And in that sense, it was so emotional and so relatable for all of us who've had to be in that position. But it was a very moving kind of ceremony with so many friends.
I would just add to that, Melanie, who in his later years when he was here in Houston, who did he develop friendships with? Former President Clinton,
Right.
and President Obama.
Right, that's exactly
So
right.
for him, it all transcended politics.
Oh, you're
It was
right.
about people.
It was about
and
people.
friendships and relationships. And you know, I think with former presidents, it's kind of there's a bond between them
Yeah.
because they've all had to face the same challenges. And I think another thing to his credit, and again, to me, it speaks volumes about his humility. He never wrote a memoir. Now, he participated in some books
Right.
Sure.
about his quotes, but and I'd ask him about that. I said, aren't you going to do your memoir? He said, no, I'm going to leave that to historians. Let them write it.
And
There's
here we
President
have
and
President-
Mrs. Carter coming off the plane.
No, I believe
No,
those
is
are the
that-
Bakers. That
oh,
is
that's the
James and
Bakers. Yeah, that's
Susan
right.
Baker
Baker.
coming
That
down.
is- that
and
is
we,
the
of course,
Bakers.
heard once again about those final moments of his life. He was with his best friend, James Baker, who he's known for decades in that room. And he said to James Baker, "Where are we going, Babe?" And James Baker responded, "You're going to heaven."
going to
and he said,
heaven.
"Good, that's where I want to be."
That's where I want to be.
You know, I had a similar experience with him because the last time I saw President Bush was about a month ago. And I went over to visit with him and had about a 2-hour visit, almost 2 hours with him. And boy, I'll tell you, it's going to be indelible in my memory. As I was getting up to leave, I said to him, you will never know the impact you've had on my career and my life. And I patted his shoulder, and he looked up at me and he said, I know. And I'll tell you, I walked out of there dewy-eyed.
Yeah, I bet.
And
There's-
I get pretty emotional about it now.
Oh, I bet.
Well,
Yes,
and now we
there's
begin
some
to
of the
see
Bush
some of
family.
the Bush family members. This looks like some of the grandchildren coming off. We have to remember that it was quite a brood.
We're talking about
Yeah.
a huge family here. They have 6 children, and of course their
I believe
youngest,
it's 17
Robin.
grandchildren.
They have 15 grandchildren.
Bill,
I believe.
15, all
yes.
right. And
But,
then great-grandchildren as well.
And 6, there's some of the great-grandchildren. But the 6 children, one of them, of course, died when she was 3 years old from leukemia.
There's
That is
John
Robin.
Meacham, his historian
Yeah.
there.
What a beautiful
who
speech
delivered
he
a
gave.
beautiful
Yes,
speech
Just
today.
absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, just wonderful. All of the family members will come off of the plane. The Bush family will stand in reverent respect as the casket passes. Some of them will be placing their hands over their heart as they did before, likewise, likely. And then those in the military, of course, in great salute. There are the pallbearers. They are waiting for the casket, and they will slowly walk that casket under a 21-gun salute with Hail to the Chief being played.
And what is so striking at this moment is the silence. The fact that
Deafening, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there you see Pierce Bush, that is his grandson, who now runs, I believe it is the Boys and Girls Club. Is that right?
Who is a Houstonian?
Exactly. And what you notice is how many family members have gone into public service of one sort or another, whether it's elected office, as in the case of George P. Bush, who is his grandson,
Well, let's face it, they've had a pretty good mentor.
Exactly.
None
his
better.
son, Neil Bush, now runs the Points of Light Foundation that his father founded. So you can see so many of the Bushes, so many family members carrying on that mission to help others, to be part of.
Well, it's all that belief in that family of service to others.
Absolutely.
And you see all of the Bush family and other aides as well off to the right-hand side there. They are waiting for everyone to be in place before all of the children come off that aircraft, along with the wives as well. President Bush, along with others, Neil and Jeb, of course, and all of the children. And they will step just right there in front of the family. And they will be as well watching as the casket goes by. So we are preparing for that. And once it does start happening, we will go ahead and pause and listen to the music.
Comes President number 43, George W. Bush, and his wife Laura, who've really sort of taken over the role of patriarch and matriarch of the family
They
now.
will be
Really
now.
here, I would
Yeah.
say. Throughout this week, we saw them last night showing up in the middle of the night at the rotunda to thank people for being there. Today, so many sweet moments, as you saw. For instance, Jeb Bush reach over and pat his brother on the knee and say, "Good job." And it's just been a very emotional day. And you realize they're going to have to go through another service again tomorrow morning.
And there is Jeb Bush behind former president as well.
And his wife.
And then you see Neil behind him. But there they are being flanked by, that is General Howard, by the way. General Howard is the main organizer of all of this. He has been incredible. Everything is just like clockwork. If we're off time at all, it's only by a few minutes. I mean, and as you said, the former President 41, he would have wanted it this way.
He and Barbara are probably sitting up there saying, "You all keep this on time."
That's exactly right. And we should mention that much of this was planned by former President Bush. He knew years ago how he wanted his services to go and laid it out. I have no doubt that he probably called his kids in and said, "This is how this is going to go."
His stamp is on this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Including making sure that all of the presidents were there together, all of the living presidents. At one point, we were a bit surprised to see President Carter and his wife Rosalind, because the two of them also in their 90s. I think they were very close in age. President Bush and President Carter, not in the best of health.
That speaks to President Carter's respect for the institution of the presidency.
Yes.
Such
and you
a
see there Marvin, another one of the sons we don't see as much of, and daughter Dora, who we saw during her mother's funeral.
Such a classy move the other last night when Bush 43, went into the rotunda, and then he was able to just shake some hands of everyone. That's something that Bush 41 would have done.
Well, he did do that at his wife's funeral.
The wife's funeral.
He and Dora were there to shake hands.
That was amazing, even under a wheelchair and the conditions. Why don't we go ahead and pause now?
I can hear his voice saying, "Let's say hello to these people."
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pause and listen in to the music and the 21-gun salute. You just finished listening to that beautiful band play that wonderful Christian hymn, Abide With Me 'Tis Eventide. That is a gorgeous hymn which speaks of returning to the Lord, abiding with the Lord, and something which President Bush always spoke of in his deep faith and his love of God, his love of country, his love of family, his love of friends. Just amazing.
And as we now watch the family headed up there once again by President George W. Bush, they will proceed now to vehicles and they will go on their separate way. They will proceed, or they will follow the hearse, which will go on to St. Martin's Episcopal Church, where people are already waiting in line for an opportunity to come and view his casket there.
More than, they say, 1,000 people there. At least that was the count earlier, a few hours ago. So they're probably likely many more than that. That viewing will be open, I believe it's at 6:45 tonight, Houston time.
And will go until 6 a.m. in the
All the
morning,
way
so.
until tomorrow morning. And President Bush, number 41, now back in Houston for his last time, really, because he will be staying overnight and then he will be laid to rest and interned in College Station.
Yeah, and in fact, he will be, the hearse will take him from the church to the train tomorrow. And believe it is Bush 4141. Peter, if you will correct me there.
That's actually a little bit of history repeating itself. When the Bush Library opened in 1997 at Texas A&M, when all the gifts were here in Houston, they transported many of them to that library opening on a train.
On a train,
Okay.
And he liked that a lot. He thought that was because it gave him a chance for an hour and 15 or 20 minutes to visit with a lot of people on the train. And he thought that was great. So we're seeing history repeat itself.
And he
that's
actually got a
beautiful.
chance to drive
Yes.
it, which was also a very big deal for him. So just to sort of bring you up to date, again, people will be able to board those shuttles. You go to Second Baptist Church, take the shuttle bus over to St. Martin's, and they will get a chance to view the casket there before tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Those doors close. He then goes on to the train and to the final services there at College Station.
You notice how beautifully choreographed everything is. By the way, this is the third time they've had a ceremony of a 21-gun salute and ruffles and flourishes and the hail to the chief with the big band. But it's the 9th time they've actually had a ceremony because every time they move the casket, there is another ceremony. But all of them have been so beautifully choreographed. General Howard is the one in charge of all of that. But it's been just a tremendous show of love, of respect, of honor for a hail to the chief.
And really a chance to bring so many people together as a result. We have seen a real kind of
And that would,
communal.
that would please him greatly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he was
absolutely.
known for that. Well, we want to tell you that our live coverage of the arrival of President George H.W. Bush continues on abc13.com and our news app, so you can continue to watch it there. David Muir is coming up next. We'll see you at 6.
interested, that there wouldn't be a turnout in the nation's capital after he died and there was a funeral service. In fact, we know that not to be the case today. A very grand ceremony in Washington, D.C. after thousands of people stood in line just to get a chance to walk past his casket there. And we are so honored to have him back here at home in Houston and to get our chance to show our respects personally.
Yeah, it's really his last about 15, 16, 18 hours in Houston now, because this will be his last time in Houston. Arriving at Ellington Field about 5 o'clock or so, he will lie in repose at St. Martin's until tomorrow morning. Now, all the doors will be open all night long. You can file through there. You see the picture on the left. There
Until
are probably
6 a.m.
Till 6 a.m. And there are a couple of thousand people probably
I think that might be
already in line.
Second Baptist Church that we're looking at there on the left side, which is, again, where I said you go if you want to take a metro bus over to St. Martin's Episcopal.
Right.
There simply is not enough
there.
parking space, there. But St. Martin's is where he and Barbara worshiped for over 50 years together, right here in the heart of Houston. And so many people, so many common men and women like you and like me, Art, had a chance to at some point interact with the president and the First Lady, Barbara. And, you know, so many people speak of stories of just the down-to-earthedness of this family and how they always had time to shake someone's hand, to give them a hug, to share a story or to listen to a story.
Well, and that's what's so remarkable about this man, the former president. He was just so incredibly human, I suppose. And that's the word that he was just so down to earth, so approachable in so many ways, and a man of great honor, clearly. And as Peter Russell said, a rock star without really recognizing that he was.
No, and I think that speaks to the times. You know, right now we're in an era with social media and stuff where people bragging is normal. It's normalized. And even for you and I at our generation, you know, people kind of think that modesty is prized. And certainly that was especially true at his generation, that he was always taught to play down your accomplishments rather than to boast about them. A very sharp difference from our current culture, politically and otherwise.
Absolutely, yes. Quite a contrast from today's view. All right, Maya Shea is standing by over there at Baptist Church. That is where all of the hundreds and even thousands over the hours will be traveling to St. Martin's. Maya, can you hear us? And how many folks do you see there now?
Hey guys, yeah, we can't hear you. We're at Second Baptist Church, and this is the line. It goes all the way back, and it's at least a couple of thousand people have already made it through. And we know all these folks are nice and patient, and surprising some of them from being on TV. Ma'am, could you tell us how long you've been out here?
Gosh, probably about an hour and a half, maybe.
And I see you brought your kiddos?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why it was important for you to bring your kids.
Well, he was one of the greatest presidents of our country, and to be able to pay our respects to him in person was a great honor, and I wanted them to experience that as well, even though they weren't alive when he was president, but he set a great example for them to follow.
And I noticed they're giving you folks, so for these kids, how will they, what would you tell them coming up?
About George Bush?
Yes.
About what a wonderful man he was, how kind he was, and respectful and honorable. It's something that children, I think, need to know more about these days. Be respectful.
Thank you so much. Now, for the folks, this is how it works. You come here to the Second Baptist, where at Voss and Woodway, you park and then you wait in this line. And this line goes for quite a ways. And then on the other side, it might be a little difficult to see, are metro buses. The buses are all marked George H.W. Bush. You will then take that bus to the church where you will be able to go and pay your respects. It's a very important thing to know is the folks here, they want you to come to Second Baptist and park. You cannot go to the other church, just drive up. That is not how this works. You want to come here, get on the metro shuttle. You can come all throughout the night, and you will have a lot of friends. We talked to a lot of people here. They're just making friends, really reminiscing about the time President Bush was in office, and a very sweet and kind atmosphere here on the west side. Guys, back to you.
Very good. Thank you, Maya. We appreciate that report. So many people out there waiting for so long. That woman with her children, an hour and a half, and they still have, well, a few hours more to go before they're able to see the former president.
So we're looking at a live picture right now. We believe that they just passed NRG there as they make the caravan to St. Martin's Episcopal Church, and that is where our own Jessica Willey is standing by live. Jessica?
Hi there. We are expecting the arrival of former President Bush's remains in the next few minutes or so. We are going to keep the shot just like this in anticipation. Just to the right is a group of people you can see there. Some of the folks coming off the first bus from Second Baptist. They're some of the lucky ones who will be able to see this arrival ceremony expected in the next few minutes here at St. Martin's Episcopal Church. As you know, George H.W. Bush and his wife Barbara, longtime members, and I am going to be quiet now as we watch the beginning of this ceremony. We are expecting them in the next few minutes.
We might make mention we just wanted to make mention that they are not allowed to turn on lights, camera lights, at the church, and they have to remain off during this time. So that is why we are unable to see Jessica, and that is why she has been told to remain quiet as well. There is no talking once they arrive, and looks like they may be either practicing or just getting prepared for his arrival at this point.
Yeah, I think getting in position for the arrival. Right. We again believe that the casket is now on the South Loop, and so the freeway obviously has been cleared out of the path of the funeral procession, and so perhaps, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 10 minutes away from getting to the church exactly. And I was mentioning some of the rules that we have to follow as journalists, trying to respect the dignity of this service. And one of the issues that will come to bear is that we will not have a live picture on the ground during certain parts of the evening. We will only take sky-eye pictures so as not to interfere with the solemnity of the procession.
It's such a beautiful and solemn and reverent service. Wherever he goes, there is a special greeting of the military, and this would be the 9th time that it's taken place. By the way, they are still in the South Loop. They're approaching the West Loop, and then they will head north on the West Loop for not too long, just a couple of minutes before they exit and head to St. Martin's Episcopal Church.
It's interesting because President H.W. Bush spoke so much about all of the big jobs that he had, president, vice president, CIA director, ambassador, et cetera. But he really felt a special kinship with his job as a fighter pilot. Yes. that he took on as a mere 18-year-old, and so the inclusion of the military would obviously become with any president's funeral service, but it's especially pertinent in this one.
Absolutely, because as president, you are commander-in-chief of all of the 5 armed military arms of the nation, and there you have represented as well all of the arms of the military. You have the Navy, you have the Air Force, you have the Marines, you have the Coast Guard as well. You have the Army, and of course he fought for the country, but as well did his service while in the U.S. Navy.
We want to go to Nick Notario. He is standing by live on Woodway near the church. Nick?
We're about a half a mile just east of the church, and we're waiting for the motorcade to make its way. It's actually to come from behind us. There's 610 in the background, and you can actually see a lot of flashing lights. They've shut down this road for the last couple of hours. At least you can't drive west toward the church. There are some people still moving east. We do expect that to be shut off here. There are some people that have come out. We can see a father with his 2 children that have come out to pay their respects as the motorcade comes this way. I do know that if you are coming down around the Woodway 610 area, they have a number of roads, intersections closed, so you're not able to go certain areas. I know a number of people that live down this area had issues trying to get in, but obviously they are blocking a number of these streets as we wait for anticipation. And I can tell you, just outside the church, it was a very moving and beautiful drive over here. We saw hundreds of American flags lining the street, obviously ready to welcome home their American hero here one last time. But we expect within the next couple of minutes, as you guys have been talking about, as you're watching the motorcade, to make its way down Woodway here just off of 610. Again, we're just east of St. Martin's Episcopal Church, and we're waiting to bring you that shot right outside the church here.
Nick, thank you. And as we look at that motorcade continuing to pass, you see all of the vehicles on the opposite direction. They would be headed south on the West Loop. They are all stopped, and that's probably because of traffic. But I would suspect that many just want to stop out of respect.
Yeah, I mean, this is a special thing that they're witnessing for sure, going right through our city, and we believe that they're just passing by the loop there at Bissonnette, so not too far from our Channel 13 studios as they make their way to what will probably be the Woodway exit, I believe. There to get to St. Martin's or San Felipe. I'm not sure which one of those two exits they'll take, but a very long caravan, very long funeral procession, so many dignitaries, and of course the Bush family as well.
And then all of the others you see on the right-hand side there, the military honors. Military honors will be given every time the casket moves from one location to the other. He will have the complete military honors. Now, in this case, you have the military honors here, but you do not have the ruffles and flourishes or the 21-gun salute as you had when he was boarding, getting on and off the jet. But there you have the band. They will be playing, and we'll just listen in as well when that happens.
We want to go to Elisa Rivas now to give you some updated information about the traffic situation. Elisa?
Right, so many of you on your drive home, 45 was really held up, 288 was held up as the motorcade made its way past. This is the West Loop at Beechnut here in the last 2 minutes. Traffic has just started flowing again, so they are getting very, very close now to St. Martin's. We do want to let you know this is the wider view of what's going on, so no worse or better than a usual evening, but you will have to put up with those stoppages for the motorcade, and then the traffic usually clears up pretty quickly once it passes. As you get closer to St. Martin's, if you're headed over there this evening, the closure is on Woodway from Chimney Rock to North Post Oak. Also Riverway and Sage, very close to St. Martin's, are closed as well. All of those not reopening until tomorrow at about 1 o'clock. This is the wider view of the traffic in the area. South Voss Road, very, very busy at this point. And also you can see the busyness there along the West Loop. Some of the green you see is likely where the motorcade has stopped traffic. So we just want to remind you that you are not going to St. Martin's if you're going tonight. You're going to Second Baptist Church at Woodway and Voss. There'll be a security check-in, a shuttle over to St. Martin's Episcopal. That will begin very, very soon as we have been following the motorcade, and it is almost to St. Martin's. Art?
Very good. Thank you, Elisa. We appreciate that traffic coverage there. Back to the picture as well of downtown. You can see just how beautifully lit it is with all of the traffic.
Beautiful picture.
Yeah, that's just absolutely gorgeous. But as well, you can see the motorcade right there on the west side. Wow, that motorcade, it is really long because, as you said, there are a number of dignitaries. You have all of the family, you have all of the former CIA agents, as well as the current, and then all of the friends who are traveling with them.
Don Armstrong is above in Sky Eye bringing us this beautiful picture. Don?
Through the Galleria area, just crossed over 5969, the Southwest Freeway, headed down there toward Memorial Park, and ready to exit anytime now. So we're going to sign off because we can't go any further. Air restrictions in the area.
I believe, Don, you have to stay 3 miles away. Is that correct, from the church in the skies above?
There is temporary flight restriction 3 miles away from St. Martin's.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Well, we appreciate that last look there from the sky, but there is a beautiful picture as we see the services are getting underway.
It has been so beautiful, actually, to watch the services at every location, all of the ceremonies put on by the military. Just to watch the choreography and through all of this, it's been so incredibly moving. And so respectful and so solemn.
Yes, moving and also very deliberate. A lot of work went into choreographing all of this. And for example, today when we saw all the former presidents sitting together along with President Trump, there was a reaching out to the Trump administration months ago about how this would be carried off in Washington, D.C., and the fact that Air Force One would be renamed, for Special Mission 41. So a lot goes into making sure that this country gets a chance to truly honor its presidents as they are laid to rest. And also, it's one of the things that makes our country special when you get a chance to see presidents from different parties sitting peaceably alongside one another.
Right.
Maybe not warmly in every instance, but certainly peacefully together. And that's not something that all countries can say that happens.
Right. You know? Well, that's one of the great things about this democracy is that you can have a political fight like that, like with President Bush and President Clinton. And it was incredible how difficult that battle was. but yet right afterwards,
they became the best of friends.
Is that Ed Emmett? Okay,
yes,
that
it is Ed Emmett.
Ed Emmett who was there. You can see him there on the left-hand side.
If we can get the monitor brought closer to us, thank you.
But yeah, one of the beautiful things about the democracy is that you can turn it over, and the peaceful turnover from one president to the next has been been the epitome of the greatness of this country.
Yeah, I saw a photo of President H.W. Bush wearing some President Clinton socks, and President Clinton pointing at them. And you know, that's a special thing about this country that we certainly hope we never lose, is the ability to disagree respectfully with one another.
And then President Bush, of course, just becoming great friends with President Clinton in his later years, and then playing golf together and hanging out a lot together, and such deep friends now. And they always will be, of course, their families. So that's the motion of the government. It's constantly changing, but...
and the Bush family has a new patriarch tonight.
Yes. In
George Bush, you know, seeing him as well, like his good friendship with Michelle Obama, making sure that she has, whether it was a piece of candy or whether it was a throat lozenge for this funeral service today, as well as the one for his mom, Barbara. So yes, you can see the true affection across party lines, and certainly something for us all to work toward duplicating. And I think they wanted to show that example, and the Trump administration helped make sure that that happened.
They certainly did. And as we were able to watch earlier this afternoon, this morning, the beautiful services there at the nation's cathedral in Washington, D.C., the beautiful tributes as well. I think his legacy, as they spoke of it, is going to be long remembered for his kindness, for his friendship, for his faith in God, for his love of family, for his continuing admiration for others, and not recognizing and wanting to take anything upon himself as being the person who accomplished it. But always passing it off to others.
Absolutely. Yes. Again, looking at a beautiful picture there at St. Martin's. We have cameras in position because, as we said, we can't fly. Sky cannot fly overhead. We are at a Second Baptist Church. That is where Maya Shea is located, where people are trying to get access to this service. You can't just show up there at St. Martin's. You have to go to Second Baptist first, right, Maya?
That's right. That's right, and you know, it's actually a really beautiful and moving scene right here at Second Baptist. Look at all these folks. This lady right here, I just saw, she has this one and a little sleeping baby. They're all waiting. You wanted to bring the kids to this important event?
Absolutely. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to learn a little bit about history and learn about President Bush and the impact he had on our country.
Great, thank you so much. How long have you ladies been waiting?
Since about 4:30.
You're very patient.
Yeah, we're very patient. Our backs are hurting now. We're getting colder by the minute, but
well, folks here are really friendly, and everyone seems really in good spirits to come out.
They are, yeah, everybody is, yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And you know what's really important is everybody from all walks of life have really gathered here this evening, and we're expected to see them throughout the night. In fact, earlier, I actually met a man who was Mr. Bush's tailor for 30 years, and he had brought a framed, signed note from the former president, and he said he actually made the president's suit here in Houston for 30 years, and he was just the nicest man as can be. We also met earlier a history teacher who came here. She had her crazy socks on. She had an American flag shirt. She said she taught her students. She was going to come here, wait in line, go through, probably shed a few tears, and then that is a lesson she will deliver to her students tomorrow. So a lot of wonderful stories here. And of course, the line here open throughout the evening. You're welcome to come. It'll take a while, but certainly worth the wait. So we're live here out on the west side. Now back to you guys.
Maya, thank you so much. We want to go back live because it looks as though the funeral procession is arriving there at St. Martin's. Jessica Willey is there. Of course, we can't turn the camera onto her, but Jessica, can you hear us? Okay, she can't talk to us right now because I guess they have shut us from reporting live with words, but we can show you the pictures, which is excellent. Yeah. And that's certainly what you want to see as they start to enter the church grounds there. And as you see, they are ready for them.
There is the hearse carrying the body of President Bush. It will stop, and then eventually they'll open the doors, and then they will make their way. And once they start doing that, we'll go ahead and pause because they will start playing, the band will start playing. Not sure if they're going to be playing Hail to the Chief. In the past, they've been playing Ruffles and Flourishes, and then Hail to the Chief, which is every time the casket moves from one place to another, they have been having this extravagant and just beautifully choreographed ceremony.
A lot of the people that lined up at Second Baptist were are being given an opportunity to come via Metro bus to the church, as we said. They were supposed to start leaving there about 5:30, but I can't see from this juncture whether or not members of the general public have yet arrived there, or if that's only dignitaries. It doesn't look like a huge crowd, you know, but that could just be the angle that we're looking right now. But
you can see the fences there in front of the hearse that are blocking out all the public.
Looks like all television stations actually there. And there it is, the casket of our 41st president.
We understand that Mayor Turner, Sylvester Turner, part of those greeting the casket, as well as Harris County Judge Ed Emmett. He is there as well. We saw him earlier standing and waiting. The music will be
there
playing.
We see them both right there in that shot.
Yes. We see the other Bush family there.
Nothing here is coincidence. Every person that is there
for an absolute reason. Look at the pallbearers and notice their different uniforms.
Basket down. Bears up. To my right, face. Forward, march.
Almighty and everlasting God, we yield unto thee most high praise and hearty thanks for the wonderful grace and virtue declared in all thy saints who have been the choice vessels of thy grace and the lights of the world in their several generations. Most humbly beseeching thee to give us grace so to follow the example of their steadfastness in thy faith and obedience to thy holy commandments, that at the day of the general resurrection, we, with all those who are of the mystical body of thy Son, may be set on his right hand and hear his most joyful voice Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Grant this, O Father, for the sake of thy Son, Jesus Christ, our only mediator and advocate. Amen.
And with that, war hero and 41st President of the United States of America, George Herbert Walker Bush, has returned to his home church, St. Martin's Episcopal Church, where he was a known and active and friendly member of the church for more than 50 years.
Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us on the Eyewitness News at 6:30. You've been watching a beautifully choreographed entrance there into St. Martin's Episcopal Church, where President Bush will lie in repose here.
Yes, just until tomorrow morning, and you just saw Mayor Turner and Judge Ed Emmett, along with his wife, among the very first to pay tribute as the casket lies there, his body lying in repose, as we mentioned, until tomorrow morning. And of course, so many people are hoping to be able to do that same thing tonight.
Yes. Now, of course, people are lining up for their chance to see former President George H.W. Bush one last time.
Yes, he will lie in repose until tomorrow morning. And if you want to visit, we have some important information from HPD tonight as folks are lined up at Second Baptist Church nearby. And that's where we find Eyewitness News reporter Maya Shea. Maya?
Hey there, yes, folks have been very patient. The line is extraordinary as we pan down. You see some folks here been waiting about 90 minutes and they're not quite to the security checkpoint yet. And a little bit of information, what HPD and others are saying that technically Second Baptist Church is at capacity, and that is mainly for the parking issues, right? Because the parking lot is full. Now you can use, if you are here, if you're looking for parking across the street at the strip center, and also there's a compact bank parking facility not too far away from here. So those are things that you can use. What they're urging people is, look, there's already a lot of people online. How long have you ladies been waiting?
Hour and a half.
Yeah, 90 minutes, right?
90 minutes.
But
yeah.
it was very important for you to come today?
It certainly was. It's
all right. Well, thank you.
to be here.
Yes. It's just a little cold.
A little.
And a lot of patience. And we have this young man right here. He is waiting, dressed in his very best, waiting to honor the president and pay his respects. But we urge you that if you're planning to come, perhaps wait. Houston police say wait until it's a little bit later so they can get a couple of cycles of folks in there with the busing, come back out, drop some people off so that it will free up some parking spots. Because so far, none of the people who've gone to St. Martin's Church in the last couple of hours have come back. So no one's made any additional parking spots, and that is an issue. And then hopefully, if you wait a couple of hours, they will run through until 5:30 in the morning, that this will allow the cycling process to go a little faster. You'll find some parking spots and hopefully not have to wait out here for as long as some of these folks are. But folks are very, very patient. They're all here waiting, and they are eager to pay their respects to the former president. For now, we're live on the west side. Maya Shea, 13 Eyewitness News.
All right, a great message for the folks. Give it a little bit of time because, yes, that line is a long one. Now, we've been talking about road closures in place all around both of the churches, and that does affect how you get to Second Baptist. Those closures will be in place through tomorrow afternoon.
So let's get over to Elisa Rivas for an update on where those closures are and ways you can get around these. Elisa?
It is still an incredibly busy night out there in both directions, northbound and southbound on the West Loop. This is the view from Westheimer as the motorcade just passed through the West Loop. We're covering here in the last 10 to 15 minutes. Still a lot of traffic. This is the Katy Freeway, heavy inbound and outbound at Silver. A lot of people taking those exits off to Chimney Rock and so on and so forth to get into the area that is Second Baptist and then over to St. Martin's. Let's show you what's going on. This is the wider traffic picture. What you see in purple there are the closures that are happening in the area. You can still use San Felipe, Richmond, Westheimer as alternate routes, but everything is very busy right now, especially on the main corridors. Closer in the area, Chimney Rock to North Post Oak, that's the Woodway closure, and then very close to St. Martin's as well. Remember though, if you are going later on this evening, they've encouraged you to wait, right? If you're going later on this evening and in the overnight hours, you'll go to Second Baptist, you'll go through the security check there, and then shuttle over to St. Martin's. So it is a long process. You'll have to be very patient, as Maya Shea was saying. And as you notice, there is some traffic in the area. The Woodway area that's showing in green is not leading right up to Second Baptist. There along Voss, it is very busy. As you see, that little bit of orange shows you exactly that the traffic is clogged as people try to get over to Second Baptist Church.
All right, some great info everybody needs there, Elisa. Thanks a lot as we give you one more live picture of St. Martin's Episcopal Church, where